All right, so today we're diving deep into Skygold.
Yeah.
We've got their latest earnings call transcript, and we're really going to try to get a sense of where this company is headed in the future.
It'll be interesting to see how they keep up this momentum.
Well, yeah, especially with that record-breaking quarter.
Oh, yeah. I mean, hitting 768.8 CR in revenue, that's pretty impressive.
It really is. And it seems like they're in a good position to take advantage of this growth we're seeing in organized jewelry retail.
Absolutely. I mean, the transcript mentioned like a projected annual growth of 12 to 15%. There's a ton of potential there for a company like Skygold.
For sure. For sure. Now, what I found really interesting was their approach to expansion, particularly their use of franchising.
Yeah, I think those franchise upgraded and franchise owned company operated models that they're using, those seem to be working really well for them.
Yeah, especially it seems in those tier 3 and 4 cities.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's like they're tapping into a market that's been pretty much ignored by organized retail.
Yeah, and that's got to be part of what's driving this huge demand for jewelry we're seeing right now.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you've got those strong festive and wedding seasons.
Oh, yeah.
A pretty stable economy, it looks like. And the stock market is, well...
It's booming.
It's doing pretty well.
Yeah.
All of that together really seems to be driving a desire for luxury goods.
It's not just the, like the traditional kind of jewelry, though. I mean, the call highlighted how popular casual jewelry is becoming, especially with younger consumers.
Oh, yeah.
Like that lighter weight stuff you can wear every day.
Makes sense. It sounds like Skygold is really trying to capture a wide range of consumer preferences.
Yeah.
But, expanding into all these new markets and product lines, it takes...
Resources. Money.
It takes money, exactly.
Yeah.
The transcript mentioned they recently raised 270 CR.
Okay.
So, how do they plan to use all that cash?
Well, they seem to have a pretty clear plan. First, they're going to expand their product offerings, specifically in that, that 18K gold and diamond jewelry segment.
Oh, so even more options for everyone, really.
That's the idea, yep.
I like it.
Yeah, and beyond that, they're going to, they have to boost production capacity.
Right.
They're aiming for a 65% increase.
Whoa.
That's huge. And that includes putting money into their subsidiaries, Star Mangle and Sparkling Change. They're really thinking long-term, building up a solid base for future growth.
Yeah, and a big part of that is their team, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, they talked a lot about hiring, skilled designers, artisans, and also sales and marketing experts.
It's got to be key. You need the right people to make those ambitious plans happen.
Totally. Speaking of ambitious, those international expansion plans really caught my eye. They're looking at places like the Middle East, the UAE, Singapore, Malaysia. Big moves.
That's huge.
Yeah.
I wonder if their product lines, especially that focus on the 18K gold and diamond jewelry.
Yeah.
Do you think that will play well in those international markets?
I mean, it seems like they've done their homework. I think their designs will probably do well in those places, the Middle East and Asia.
Right.
Yeah, those materials are popular there. I am curious, though, how are they going to change up their marketing and branding to connect with all those different consumers?
Yeah, good point.
It'll be interesting to see what they come up with.
Now, they're not just expanding geographically, they're also considering acquisitions.
Oh, yeah, to really solidify their place in the market.
Exactly.
It's interesting how they're going about it, though.
Oh, how so?
Well, they're being very deliberate. They're looking for companies that'll help them reach specific goals, like maybe getting into new product categories or reaching entirely new customer segments.
So it's not just about getting bigger.
No.
It's about being more strategic and diversifying.
Right. They want to become even more powerful in the jewelry market.
Really makes you think. Now, another thing that caught my attention was their use of, what was it called?
Gold medal loans.
Gold medal loans, or GML for short.
Yeah.
To manage their interest costs and boost their margins. I gotta admit, I don't really know how that works.
It's actually a pretty cool financial tool. Basically, they use their gold holdings as collateral to get loans at lower interest rates.
Oh, that makes sense.
That helps them save money on borrowing, which helps their profitability. But it's not without risk. I mean, gold prices can be pretty unpredictable.
Right. If the price of gold suddenly drops, wouldn't that mess with the value of their collateral?
Exactly. And that could drive up their borrowing costs.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That's why they've got these hedging strategies in place. It's like insurance against those price swings.
Ah, so they're being cautious.
Definitely. It seems like they're balancing ambition with, a healthy dose of caution.
Smart move.
Definitely.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about their growth strategy, but what about how they're actually performing right now? Like, what do their financials tell us?
Yeah, let's look at the numbers. They released their Q2 and H1 FY25 numbers, and those paint a pretty clear picture of where they're headed.
Okay, I'm ready. What's the story?
Well, their revenue growth is fantastic.
Okay.
We're talking 94.2% year-over-year increase for Q2 and a 93% jump for the first half of the fiscal year. Their expansion efforts and those new products, they seem to be paying off big time.
Wow, that's impressive. But are they actually making money from all this growth? Like, what do their profit margins look like?
That's the key question, right? And the answer is yes, their profitability is looking good too. For Q2, they had a 5% EBITDA margin and a 4.8% PIPE margin. That tells us they're not just growing, they're growing and making money at the same time.
All right, so their efforts to streamline things and manage costs, like using those gold medal loans, are actually working.
It seems like it.
Now, speaking of GML, the transcript also mentioned that they made some extra cash by selling off shares they had in HDFC Bank and TCS.
Right, a smart move. Looks like they're freeing up some resources to maybe fuel even more expansion.
Or maybe some of those acquisitions we were talking about.
Could be. It's like they're always thinking a few steps ahead.
Makes sense, especially in a competitive industry like jewelry.
Exactly.
Well, they definitely seem to be playing the long game. Now, they also mentioned looking into lab-grown diamonds and moissanite jewelry.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. It seems like they're recognizing that consumer preferences are changing.
Yeah.
And there's a real market for those alternatives.
It shows they're willing to adapt to new trends.
Yeah, which is essential in a fast-paced industry like this.
And speaking of adapting, they're really embracing technology. They mentioned developing a mobile app, right?
Yes, to make ordering easier for their retail partners. It's all about making things more interactive for customers. I think that app could be a game changer.
I think so too.
Yeah.
It's like bringing the whole jewelry showroom right to your phone.
Exactly. And they're even thinking about virtual try-on tools and personalized recommendations. They're really taking that digital experience to the next level.
So it seems like they're going all in on creating a smooth and enjoyable experience, whether you're shopping online or in person.
Yeah.
And their dedication to innovation doesn't stop there. They're constantly experimenting with new materials and techniques for their jewelry designs. They even talked about collaborating with clients to create one-of-a-kind pieces.
Oh, that's cool. A great way to build customer loyalty and make people feel special.
For sure. It sounds like they're really focused on building those personal connections, not just selling jewelry.
Exactly.
And it's not just about attracting those big spenders either.
Yeah, they talked about the importance of nurturing those relationships with smaller retailers, too.
Right.
Those local connections are valuable.
They really are. It's all about putting the customer first, no matter how big or small.
Absolutely.
Now, their plans to expand internationally, targeting those markets like the Middle East, UAE, Singapore, Malaysia, that's pretty ambitious.
It is.
I'm curious to see how they tailor their approach to those different cultures and preferences.
Yeah, me too. I mean, they did mention adapting their product lines and marketing to resonate with those specific markets. They're not just copying and pasting what worked in India. They're really trying to connect with consumers on a deeper level.
Smart move. But it's not all about growth and profits.
No, they also talked about their commitment to ethical and sustainable practices.
Right, making sure the diamonds and gold they use are conflict-free and responsibly sourced.
Yeah, which is something that consumers are paying more and more attention to these days.
It's important.
Absolutely. And they also mentioned having a strong hedging policy in place to manage the risks that come with fluctuating gold prices.
So they're not just focused on growth, they're building a sustainable business for the long haul.
Exactly.
Their recent financial performance really shows how their strategy is working. That impressive revenue growth and those expanding profit margins, it all points to a company that's on the right track.
Yeah, it's clear they've set some pretty ambitious goals for the future, both in terms of how much they want to sell and how much they want to produce.
They're certainly investing a lot in expanding their capacity, attracting top talent, and building strategic partnerships to make it all happen.
It's impressive how they're managing this growth while still keeping a sharp focus on running things efficiently.
Right.
They're always looking for ways to streamline their processes, keep costs down, and, maximize those profits.
It really seems like they're building a business for lasting success.
Yeah, and they're not just focused on the numbers.
Right.
They talked about bringing 2 new members onto their board of directors, people with a ton of experience in the jewelry industry.
Smart move, getting those fresh perspectives and expertise from people who have been there and done that.
Yeah, it shows they're not afraid to learn from others and seek out advice.
It's a great combination. Ambition, strategic thinking, and a willingness to adapt.
Totally agree.
It's inspiring to see a company doing so well while staying true to their values and building a brand that's both successful and responsible.
For sure. It's a pretty remarkable story so far, and I can't wait to see what they do next.
Me too. But there's still a lot more to uncover. So let's move on to the next part of our deep dive. We'll take a closer look at those financials.
Okay.
And we'll dig deeper into their plans for those intriguing acquisitions.
Sounds good. It really is impressive. And their profit margins are looking good too. For Q2, they had a 5% EBITDA margin and a 4.8% EBITDA margin. So it's not just growth, they're actually making money at the same time.
It sounds like their efforts to, optimize operations and manage costs are paying off. Things like using GML.
Right.
Speaking of which, the transcript mentioned that they generated some one-time income by selling off some shares they held in HDFC Bank and TCS.
Yeah, that was a smart move. They basically boosted their cash reserves to maybe fuel more expansion or even some of those acquisitions.
So they're being strategic.
Oh, yeah. They're not just buying up any company they can. They're looking for companies that can help them reach specific goals, whether it's adding new product lines or tapping into new customer segments.
That's like they're playing chess, strategically positioning themselves.
Exactly. They're not just reacting to the market, they're shaping it.
I like that analogy.
And they're not afraid to explore new trends either. They even mentioned looking into lab-grown diamonds and moissanite jewelry.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it shows they're paying attention to how consumer preferences are changing and that there's a growing market for these alternatives to, mined diamonds.
It's smart to adapt.
For sure.
Now, another thing that caught my eye was their focus on technology. They're developing a mobile app, right?
Yeah.
To streamline the ordering process for their retail partners.
Exactly. Make it easier for them to browse the catalog, check inventory, and place orders, all in real time.
So much more efficient.
Exactly. And it creates a better experience for the customers, too.
Right. It's like having the jewelry showroom right there in your pocket.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It's great to see them embracing technology like this.
It's essential these days.
Absolutely. Now, their focus on innovation isn't limited to just technology either. They're always pushing the boundaries with their jewelry designs, too. Experimenting with new materials, new techniques, even collaborating with clients to create some really unique pieces.
Yeah, those exclusive collaborations are smart. It's a great way to build loyalty among their high-end clients.
Right, it makes them feel special.
Exactly.
But they're not forgetting about their smaller retailers either.
Oh, yeah, they mentioned how important it is to nurture those relationships.
It's a smart move. Those smaller retailers have strong connections within their communities. They can really act as brand ambassadors for Skygold.
Right. It's all about building those personal connections, no matter who the customer is.
Exactly. It seems like everything they do comes back to that customer-centric approach.
Totally agree.
Now, their international expansion plans, targeting markets like the Middle East, the UAE, Singapore, Malaysia, those are pretty ambitious.
Definitely ambitious. But they seem to be approaching it thoughtfully. They talked about adapting their product lines and their marketing to resonate with those different cultures.
It's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. They're really trying to understand the specific needs and preferences of each market.
They also highlighted their commitment to ethical and sustainable practices, making sure the diamonds and gold they use are conflict-free and responsibly sourced.
Which is hugely important these days. Consumers are becoming much more conscious of where their products come from.
Absolutely.
And they're not just relying on hope to manage the risks associated with those fluctuating gold prices. They mentioned implementing a robust hedging policy.
So they're being proactive.
Yep, definitely thinking ahead.
Their financial performance really shows how well their strategies are working, that impressive revenue growth, expanding profit margins. It all points to a company that's on the right track.
For sure. They've set some big goals for the future, both in terms of revenue and production volume. And they're investing heavily in expanding their capacity, bringing in the right people, and building strong partnerships to achieve those goals. It's really impressive to see how they're managing all of this growth while maintaining such a strong focus on operational efficiency.
Right.
They're constantly looking for ways to improve, streamline their processes, keep those costs down, and maximize their profits.
It really seems like they're building a business for long-term success.
Absolutely. They're not just focused on the short-term wins.
And they're not just obsessed with the numbers either. They mentioned plans to add 2 new members to their board of directors, specifically people with a ton of experience in the jewelry industry.
It's a good move, bringing in fresh perspectives from people who've been there.
It shows they're not afraid to learn from others.
Yeah, it's a great combination. Ambition, strategic thinking, and a willingness to adapt.
Definitely inspiring to see a company doing so well while staying true to their values and building a brand that's both successful and responsible.
It's a remarkable story so far. Can't wait to see what they do next.
Me too.
Oh.
But we still have more to unpack. So let's move on to the final part of our deep dive.
Okay, sounds good.
We'll dig deeper into their financial performance.
All right.
And really explore those acquisition plans.
Definitely.
Okay, so we're wrapping up our deep dive into Skygold, and I think it's time to really zero in on their financials. What do those numbers actually tell us about where this company is going?
Well, I think it's safe to say they're in a pretty good spot.
Yeah.
I mean, remember that revenue growth we talked about?
Oh, yeah.
It's a pretty clear sign that their strategies are working. You don't see a 94.2% year-over-year increase for Q2 every day.
That's for sure. But revenue's only part of the picture, right?
Yeah.
I mean, are they actually making money? What about those profit margins?
Good point. But yeah, their profitability is looking pretty solid, too.
Okay, good.
They reported a 5% EBITDA margin and a 4.8% PAP margin for Q2. It means they're not just growing, they're doing it in a way that's, financially sustainable.
And I bet their use of those gold medal loans is helping with that, right?
Definitely. I mean, it's a smart way to reduce borrowing costs, which ultimately boosts their profits.
But, we did talk about the risks of GML, particularly with those fluctuating gold prices. So it sounds like they're managing that risk pretty carefully.
Yeah, remember those hedging strategies they mentioned?
Right.
That's key. By locking in gold prices in advance, they're essentially protecting themselves from those sudden drops.
Okay, so they're not just jumping in blindly. They've got a plan.
Exactly. It's a sign of, responsible financial management.
Now, their expansion plans, particularly those international moves, tell me they're really thinking long-term.
Oh, absolutely. Those markets they're targeting, like the Middle East and Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
Huge potential there. And it seems like their products could really resonate with those consumers.
I think so, too. But it's a whole new ballgame, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how do they plan to make sure their message connects in those different cultures?
Right. It's not just about translating a few words.
Yeah.
They need to understand those local tastes and preferences. And from what they've said, it seems like they're putting in the effort to do just that.
All right, so even with those international plans, which sound pretty ambitious, they're not losing sight of, the bigger picture.
Right. They're not just focused on growth for growth's sake. They're committed to doing things the right way.
Like with their emphasis on ethical sourcing.
Exactly. It's clear they're paying attention to what consumers care about. Those conflict-free diamonds and responsibly sourced gold.
Yeah.
It matters. And they're backing it up with action.
It's a good sign, for sure. Now, what about those acquisition plans we keep talking about? They sound pretty interesting.
Yeah, they do. And I think it's worth highlighting how deliberate they're being about it.
Oh. In what way?
They're not just looking to buy any company that comes along.
Right.
They're being very strategic, targeting companies that fit their specific goals, whether it's adding new product lines, reaching new customers, or, gaining some expertise.
So they're being very intentional.
Absolutely. They're not just trying to get bigger, they're trying to get better.
Smart. Well, from what we've seen today, I think it's safe to say that Skygold has a pretty bright future ahead of them.
I think so too. They've got a strong track record, they're making smart moves, and they're clearly committed to doing things the right way.
But of course, no investment is without risk.
Yeah.
So, for our listeners who might be thinking about Skygold, what should they keep in mind?
I think the biggest thing is to remember that the jewelry market, it's cyclical. It's affected by the economy, consumer confidence, and even those fashion trends.
So don't just focus on Skygold.
Right. Look at the bigger picture, the whole industry. And then, even with the best plans, there's always the question of execution. Can Skygold actually deliver?
That's always the question, isn't it?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how things unfold, but I think their journey so far has been pretty impressive. They're a company that's not afraid to think big, challenge the status quo, and really push the boundaries of what's possible in the jewelry industry.
It's inspiring, honestly, and I think there's a lesson there for all of us, whether we're investors, entrepreneurs, or just, trying to navigate our own careers.
Definitely. Don't be afraid to be ambitious, to think strategically, and to never stop innovating. Who knows, maybe your story will be the next one we deep dive into.
That's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining me for this deep dive into Skygold. Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, And, as always, happy investing.